What's up there, all my perfectionists? In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you about Great Apes in Dragon Ball. Now, the challenge for this video is to keep it below 10 minutes. We're not trying to get extra ads here. We're keeping it strictly informative for the viewer, unlike other channels in the community. So let's get things started. Of course, as you know, the story of Dragon Ball is closely connected to the Journey in the West story, the story of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, and of course in Dragon Ball we have Goku. Now Goku, of course, in the original story and in Dragon Ball, he has a tail just like the Monkey King in the Journey in the West story, and he can transform into a Great Ape. Now, a fun fact is that the Great Ape transformation was going to be strictly unique to Goku until Dragon Ball Z came up and added the expanded story of the Saiyans, aka there being more than one monkey boy in the universe, so therefore everyone got the ability to transform into a Great Ape as long as they had a tail. Now, when a Saiyan transforms into the Great Ape transformation, there are three different methods that we're going to be going over. The first method being the most common method, which is the full moon. Now, a Saiyan will go through a transformation if he looks at the full moon and absorbs 17 million Zeno units of blood waves. Now, of course, it is spelled exactly like the Dragon Ball Super Zeno, and they must absorb it through the eyes, process it through the tail, and it triggers the transformation. If the Saiyan does not have a tail, they will not transform. Now, if you want to consider the expanded lore of Dragon Ball, if they have a time breaker mask on, they cannot transform either unless the mask is broken, and then they can transform into the Great Ape state. Now, while they're in this state, they lose all rationale, they lose all reason, and they attack anything and everything in sight, which is why in typical Saiyan lore, or the typical Saiyan everyday use for it, they go to different planets that they intend to conquer. During the full moon phase of that particular planet, they go there, transform, obliterate everything, and take it over, typically for Frieza. Now, there is a second method of transformation that is mostly for elites. Now, if you want to believe the dub, it was created by a low-class Saiyan named Bardock, and this method is called the Powerball method. Now, what happens is a Saiyan takes his energy, he mixes it in with the atmosphere of the planet, and it creates a fake moon. This fake moon will emit the 17 million necessary blood waves to transform into a Great Ape. Now, Vegeta was the first person to use this method on screen or in the manga. We didn't see Bardock use it actually in the Bardock special, but again, Vegeta credited it to Goku's father. So this again is the same phenomena as the moon, and I guess we can assume that once the Powerball dissipates, the Saiyan loses the ability or de-transforms out of the form. But the only way that we've ever seen a Saiyan knocked out of the Great Ape transformation was actually due to their tail being cut off, which is one of the very few ways to get a Saiyan to de-transform outside of just taking out the Powerball, which, if you want to follow the Super Dragon Ball Heroes episodes, when Fu took out the Powerball, Cumber went back and reverted into his humanoid form. So there's only two methods: take out the source of the transformation, which could be the moon, the Powerball, or cut the Saiyan's tail off. As far as the moon was concerned, we've had the moon destroyed multiple times in Dragon Ball, and just somehow inexplicably got returned. Kami only returned the moon to the earth after he removed Goku's tail. He permanently removed it until it reappeared in Dragon Ball GT. So now we have all the necessary facts about the Great Ape transformation. Let's move on to the Golden Great Ape transformation. Now, the Golden Great Ape transformation, or the Golden Oozaru transformation, is essentially a Great Ape gone Super Saiyan. So what we know about this is, on top of the 10 times multiplier that a Great Ape receives while in the Great Ape state, they get an additional 50 times multiplier on top of that 10 times multiplier, making everything 500 times the humanoid form's base power level. While they're in this state, it's essentially the same behavior, the same ravenous, destructive behavior. Now, in the base form of the Great Ape, there is a difference between a common Saiyan and an elite Saiyan. An elite Saiyan can retain their reason through some form of training. Now, we don't know exactly what this form of training was. Vegeta never expanded upon it, but he did drop that little bit of knowledge. That's why he was able to talk and reason and strategize and use the full benefits of the Great Ape transformation. Of course, in GT, when he assumed the golden Great Ape form, he wasn't able to do that immediately, and we can just assume because it had been a while since he had actually transformed into a Great Ape by himself without baby. He was just not used to it anymore, to transforming and controlling himself and having reason, yada yada yada. In the golden Great Ape state, the Saiyans achieve an ability to breathe fire. Now, I don't exactly know whether this is just completely unique to golden Great Apes, because in the GT story, it was actually revealed that Saiyans, outside of just having the typical atomic breath, they were actually able to breathe fire in Baby's flashback. So take that as you will. Now, we have the final way that a Saiyan can achieve a transform state, and this is the only method in which a Saiyan who's lost his tail can transform, and it's the Blutz wave emitter that was invented by Bulma. Now, Bulma invented this machine while she was under the control of Baby, and of course it was revealed again when they were dealing with the Shadow Dragons and that whole phenomenon, when they needed another Super Saiyan 4 to help Goku deal with Sin and Omega Shenron. In enters the Blutz wave emitter, and basically the way that this works is that it pumps the Saiyan body with the 17 million Xeno units necessary to transform into the Great Ape without having to have the tail to process all of that. And this is the only reason that Vegeta was able to transform into Super Saiyan 4. Now, when the Saiyan runs out of the necessary power, or they de-transform, they will immediately lose their tail again, because when Vegeta got knocked out of Super Saiyan 4, he lost his tail. It wasn't there anymore. It didn't get cut off. Omega didn't cut off, anything like that. It just disappeared. So we can assume that if you don't grow your tail naturally, if you use the Blutz wave emitter, it's just going to disappear again. You have to grow it back in the natural method. And speaking of Super Saiyan 4, the Great Ape transformation is the only way a Saiyan can achieve the Super Saiyan 4 transformation. They have to go through the Great Ape state, they have to transform into the Golden Great Ape state, they have to retain their reasoning, control and manage the power, and then they achieve the Super Saiyan 4 state. This is why it's sort of theorized that the Saiyans are at their most powerful when they have their tails, because this is the only way that they can achieve Super Saiyan 4, which is arguably the strongest state that a Saiyan can achieve outside of, like, if you want to count Ultra Instinct, which is actually not unique to Saiyans. It's something that anyone can get, but you know, strictly to Saiyans, Super Saiyan 4 is the strongest thing that a Saiyan can achieve. So that's been everything you need to know about Saiyans. Again, Great Ape does not reappear until Super Dragon Ball Heroes, with Cumber using a power ball against Goku and Vegeta when they transform into Vegito. And that's been every little bit that you need to know about Great Apes in Dragon Ball. And would you look at that, we kept it below 10 minutes. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell for more content and entertainment from this channel, and I will see you in the next video.